All right, so get ready. We're diving deep into the world of the human heart today.
The human heart, yeah.
It's like someone gave us a biology teacher's lesson plan with all these textbook excerpts and research papers.
Absolutely.
But don't worry, we're going to break it all down.
Make it fun.
Yeah, and maybe even a little mind-blowing.
Definitely.
One of the textbooks describes the heart as a fist-sized powerhouse.
Yeah.
What exactly makes it so powerful? I mean...
Well, I think for starters,
Okay.
you have to think about this. Your heart will pump enough blood to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool over your lifetime
Whoa.
twice. And it does all this while beating over 100,000 times every day.
That's incredible.
It is.
All right, so the heart has 4 chambers.
It's a...
I vaguely remember learning about this in school, but can we refresh our memories a little?
Sure. So imagine the heart as a house with 4 rooms.
Okay.
2 of these rooms are called atria.
Okay.
And they're like the entryways. They receive blood from the body and the lungs. The other 2 rooms are the ventricles, and those are the real powerhouses that pump the blood out to the rest of the body.
So it's a very carefully choreographed flow of blood through these 4 chambers.
Exactly. So let's start with deoxygenated blood.
Okay.
So blood carrying waste products from the body. This blood enters the right atrium through a large vein called the superior vena cava.
The superior vena cava. I remember that name.
So the right atrium receives this deoxygenated blood and then pumps it into the right ventricle. Now, the right ventricle's job is to pump this blood to the lungs to pick up oxygen.
So the right side of the heart handles the deoxygenated blood, sends it to the lungs.
Correct.
Then what?
Then the newly oxygenated blood returns from the lungs to the left atrium through the pulmonary veins.
So the left side of the heart deals with the oxygen-rich blood.
Exactly. The left atrium receives this oxygen-rich blood, pumps it into the left ventricle.
Right.
Now, this is where the real strength comes in. The left ventricle is the strongest chamber because it has to pump this oxygenated blood out to the entire body through the aorta, which is the largest artery in the body.
So the left ventricle is doing the heavy lifting.
It is.
But how do we prevent the blood from flowing backward? Wouldn't that mess up the whole system?
You're absolutely right. And that's where heart valves come in.
Okay.
They act like sophisticated one-way valves, ensure that blood flows efficiently through the heart.
It's like those turnstiles that you see in subway stations.
That's a great analogy.
Only letting people through in one direction.
Exactly. We have the atrioventricular valves, which sit between the atria and the ventricles, making sure blood flows from the atria into the ventricles and not back.
And then we have...
Yes, the semilunar valves.
Semi.
They're positioned between the ventricles and the arteries, leaving the heart, ensuring that blood flows out of the ventricles and into the arteries, again, preventing any backflow.
So it's all about maintaining that smooth one-way flow.
Precisely. And, you know, every time you hear that lub-dub sound of your heartbeat, you're actually listening to those valves closing.
Whoa, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So the lub is the atrioventricular valves closing, and the dup is the semilunar valves closing.
Correct.
It's like a little rhythm section.
It is.
Going on inside our chest.
Yeah, and a rhythm that plays on tirelessly 24/7.
Right, which begs the question, what keeps this rhythm going? I mean, it's not like we're consciously thinking about each heartbeat.
Exactly. So the heart has its own internal pacemaker.
Okay.
A specialized cluster of cells called the sinoatrial node.
The sinoatrial node.
Or SA node.
And that's located in the right atrium.
Right on. The SA node initiates the electrical impulse that spreads across the atria, causing them to contract.
So it's like an electrical spark that sets the whole rhythm in motion.
Exactly. Then this impulse travels to another node, the atrioventricular node, or AV node, which is located between the atria and the ventricles.
So it goes from the SA node to the AV node. And then what happens?
From the AV node, the electrical signal is then transmitted to the ventricles, triggering their contraction.
So it's this electrical chain reaction that keeps everything synchronized.
It is. And what's fascinating is that we can actually visualize this electrical activity using an electrocardiogram.
Oh, yeah, ECGs.
Or ECG.
You see those in hospitals all the time.
Yeah, you do.
So they're basically measuring these electrical signals.
Exactly. The ECG records the electrical activity of the heart as waves, which are labeled P, QRS, and T. The P wave shows the atria contracting, the QRS complex represents the ventricles contracting, and the T wave shows the ventricles relaxing.
It's incredible that we can see these tiny little electrical impulses that are driving such a vital process.
It is.
But, you know, as with any electrical system, sometimes things can go wrong.
Right.
Have you ever heard of ventricular fibrillation?
I have.
Isn't that when the heart starts beating really erratically?
Yeah, so ventricular fibrillation.
Like those dramatic scenes you see in medical dramas where they use the defibrillators?
Right. It's a
And
very serious condition
yeah,
where the ventricles, instead of contracting in a coordinated rhythm,
right.
quiver uncontrollably.
All right.
And this disrupts the heart's ability to pump blood effectively.
So the defibrillator is kind of like hitting the reset button on the heart's electrical system.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how delicate this whole electrical system is,
It is.
and yet so vital.
Absolutely.
But we've talked a lot about the electrical side of things.
Right.
What about the heart's ability to kind of adjust its rate based on our needs?
Right.
Like when we exercise, our heart beats faster. What controls that?
That's a great question. And it brings us to the role of chemical messengers.
Okay.
So our bodies are constantly monitoring our internal environment and adjusting the heart rate accordingly.
Mm.
Think of it like a complex feedback loop.
Okay, so let's say I'm like sprinting to catch the bus.
Okay.
What's happening inside my body to make my heart race?
So as you run, your muscles work harder and need more oxygen.
Yeah.
This increased activity leads to higher levels of carbon dioxide in your blood.
Okay.
Specialized sensors in your body detect this change and send signals to your brain, specifically to the medulla oblongata,
Medulla oblongata.
which acts as the control center for many vital functions,
Right.
including heart rate.
So my brain is getting like real-time updates on what my body needs.
It is, and based on this feedback, the medulla oblongata signals the release of a chemical messenger called noradrenaline.
Okay.
Noradrenaline acts on the SA node, that pacemaker we talked about,
Right.
causing it to fire more rapidly,
Okay.
increasing your heart rate and pumping more oxygen-rich blood to your muscles.
Noradrenaline is like stepping on the gas pedal.
Exactly. It's your body's way of saying, we need more oxygen stat.
I like that.
But then what happens when you finally catch the bus and collapse into a seat?
Right.
Your heart rate eventually slows down.
It does.
How does that happen?
Yeah, how does that happen?
Once your activity level decreases, the opposite happens.
Okay.
The medulla oblongata directs the release of another chemical messenger called acetylcholine.
Acetylcholine.
This one acts as a brake,
Okay.
slowing down the firing rate of the SA node,
Mm-hmm.
bringing your heart rate back to normal.
So it's like easing off the gas pedal.
Exactly. It's all about maintaining that delicate balance, constantly fine-tuning the heart rate based on your body's ever-changing needs.
But what about those times where you get like a sudden fright or you're feeling super stressed?
Yeah.
Doesn't that make your heart race too?
Absolutely. You've probably heard of the fight or flight response.
Mm-hmm.
When we face a stressful situation, our bodies release adrenaline,
Right.
which acts similarly to noradrenaline increasing heart rate,
Okay.
preparing us to either confront the threat or run away.
It's like our ancient survival mechanisms kicking in,
Precisely.
even in modern day situations.
It is.
This is all so fascinating. I feel like I'm actually starting to understand how my heart works. But I'm curious, how does all this relate to fitness? We know athletes have lower resting heart rates.
Right.
Why is that?
That's a great question, and it brings us to the concept of cardiac output.
Cardiac output.
Yeah.
Okay.
So cardiac output is essentially a measure of how much blood your heart pumps per minute.
Okay.
It's a measure of how efficiently your heart is delivering oxygen to your body.
So the more blood pumped per minute, the better.
Not necessarily. It's about efficiency.
Yep.
Think about it like this. Imagine two cars, one small and one large.
Okay.
The small car might have to rev its engine really high to go fast,
Mm-hmm.
while the larger car can cruise at a lower RPM and still cover the same distance.
I see where you're going with this.
So a more efficient heart can pump more blood with each beat.
Okay.
And this is where fitness comes in.
Right.
Athletes, especially those who do a lot of cardio, have trained their hearts to become more efficient pumps.
So their hearts are like those powerful cars
Exactly.
that can cruise at lower RPMs.
Precisely. Their hearts can pump a larger volume of blood with each beat, allowing them to have a lower resting heart rate while still delivering plenty of oxygen to their bodies.
So it's not just about how fast your heart beats,
Right.
but also how much blood it pumps with each beat.
It's a combination of both.
Wow. I'm learning so much.
It's good.
But what about cases where things aren't so perfect? What about heart defects?
You're right.
Yeah.
The heart, like any organ, can be affected by various conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of the term blue baby?
I have. I think it has something to do with a lack of oxygen.
Exactly. So babies with a bluish tinge to their skin might have a congenital heart defect,
Okay.
meaning they were born with it. Some of these defects can disrupt the normal flow of blood,
Right.
leading to insufficient oxygenation.
That sounds scary. What kinds of defects are we talking about?
The textbook mentions septal defects, which are essentially holes in the walls that separate the heart chambers.
So instead of that carefully choreographed flow we talked about,
Right.
blood could be leaking between chambers.
Exactly. And that can disrupt the balance of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, leading to various problems.
What about heart murmurs?
Heart murmurs.
I remember reading about those.
They're often caused by problems with the heart valves.
Okay.
For instance, one common condition is mitral valve prolapse, where the flaps of the mitral valve don't close properly,
Okay.
allowing some blood to leak back into the left atrium.
So those one-way valves we were talking about earlier aren't working as efficiently?
Precisely.
Wow. We've covered so much ground already.
We have.
From the basic structure of the heart to electrical signals and chemical messengers, fitness levels, and even heart defects.
We have.
It's amazing how intricate and adaptable this organ is.
It really is, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Let's take a quick breather and come back for more.
Sounds good. Back again, ready to dive into more of the heart.
Absolutely. I feel like we've already learned so much.
Yeah.
Before the break, we were talking about heart defects. Is there anything that we can do to prevent those?
That's a great question. So while some heart defects are congenital, meaning present at birth,
Right.
many others develop later in life due to various factors, and some of which are within our control.
So it's not all about genetics.
Not at all. Lifestyle choices play a huge role.
Okay.
For example, smoking a high-fat diet and lack of exercise can all increase your risk of developing heart disease later in life.
So those are things that we can work on.
Definitely.
But what about those of us who are already pretty healthy? What else can we do to keep our hearts in tip-top shape?
Well, remember when we were talking about fitness and cardiac output?
Yeah, like those powerful cars cruising at low RPMs.
Exactly. Regular cardiovascular exercise is one of the best things you can do for your heart.
Okay.
It helps to strengthen the heart muscle, allowing it to pump more efficiently, and it increases your stroke volume,
Okay.
the amount of blood pumped with each beat.
So it's like hitting the gym, but for your heart.
Exactly.
But I've heard that like too much weightlifting can actually thicken the heart walls,
Uh-huh.
which might not be a good thing.
Right?
Is that true?
It's true that strength training can lead to some thickening of the heart walls.
Okay.
However, it's important to distinguish between different types of thickening.
Mm-hmm.
While moderate cardiovascular exercise generally increases the size and elasticity of the heart chambers.
Right.
Excessive weightlifting without enough cardio can lead to a type of thickening that stiffens the heart walls,
Okay.
potentially restricting stroke volume.
So balance is key.
Exact.
Cardio for a strong and efficient pump.
Yep.
Strength training in moderation.
There you go.
And don't underestimate the power of a healthy diet.
Of course.
Fruits, veggies, all that good stuff.
Absolutely.
But what about stress? It seems like everyone is stressed these days.
Right.
Does that impact our hearts?
Absolutely. Chronic stress can wreak havoc on your cardiovascular system.
Really?
So when we're stressed, our bodies release hormones like adrenaline and cortisol,
Right.
which can increase heart rate and blood pressure.
Okay.
Over time, this can damage the arteries, leading to a higher risk of heart disease.
So finding healthy ways to manage stress is crucial.
It is.
Maybe things like yoga or meditation.
Those are great options. And don't forget about sleep.
Right.
Getting enough restful sleep is essential for heart health.
Okay, so exercise, diet, stress management, sleep,
Mm-hmm.
it all plays a role.
It does.
I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, the Daphnia experiments.
Yeah.
Can you remind me what those were all about?
So these tiny creatures are fascinating because they have transparent bodies,
Right.
which allows us to observe their hearts beating under a microscope.
So the researchers were experimenting with different substances to see how they affected the Daphnia's heart rate.
Exactly. For example, they found that exposing the Daphnia to ice water
Okay.
caused their heart rate to decrease,
Interesting.
while substances like caffeine increased it.
So even though Daphnia are these tiny creatures, their hearts kind of respond to stimuli in a similar way to ours.
They do.
That's really interesting.
It's a reminder that we're all connected in a way.
Speaking of connections, the textbook also mentioned this groundbreaking experiment
Yeah.
conducted by a scientist named Lowy
Lowy,
using frog hearts.
right?
Can you tell me about that?
So Lowy's experiment was a game changer.
Okay.
He took 2 frog hearts, kept them beating in separate containers of saline solution, and then stimulated the vagus nerve of one of the hearts.
The vagus nerve, that's a major nerve that connects the brain to various organs.
Yeah, including the heart.
Including the heart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stimulating the vagus nerve is known to slow down the heart rate.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened in Loewy's experiment. The first heart's rate decreased.
Good.
But here's the incredible part. When he transferred the saline solution from the first heart's container to the second heart's container, the second heart's rate also slowed down.
Wait, are you serious?
I am.
So something in the saline solution from the first heart was signaling to the second heart to slow down.
Yeah.
Even though they weren't physically connected.
Exactly. This was groundbreaking because it demonstrated that the communication between the nervous system and the heart wasn't solely electrical as previously thought, but also involved chemical messengers.
Wow. So there were these tiny little chemical messengers traveling in the saline solution?
Yeah.
Like secret messages between the two hearts?
That's a great way to put it. And this experiment eventually led to the identification of acetylcholine as a key neurotransmitter involved in slowing down the heart rate.
That's incredible. These seemingly simple experiments can reveal such profound insights into how our bodies work.
Absolutely. And the more we learn about the heart, the more we realize how much more there is to discover.
Right.
It's a journey of constant exploration and awe.
I love that. It's like we're peeling back the layers of a mystery with each new discovery.
And this brings us back to a thought-provoking question that emerged from those Daphnia experiments.
Okay.
If a simple change in temperature can significantly affect a tiny crustacean's heart rate, imagine the subtle yet potentially significant impacts that environmental factors might have on our own cardiovascular health.
That's a really interesting point. We often think about things like diet and exercise when it comes to heart health.
Right.
But maybe we should also be considering the role of our environment.
Exactly. Things like air pollution, noise levels, even the temperature of our surroundings could be playing a role that we don't fully understand yet.
So we're not just these isolated beings, but interconnected with our environment in ways we're only beginning to grasp.
Exactly. And that connection extends to the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the overall health of our planet.
So what does all this mean for us? What can we do to protect our hearts, not just from the inside, but from the outside as well?
That's a question that researchers are actively exploring.
Yeah.
But one thing we can do is be mindful of our surroundings and try to minimize exposure to potentially harmful environmental factors.
Like choosing to walk or bike in parks.
Yeah.
Instead of along busy roads with heavy traffic.
Exactly. Or being aware of air quality levels and adjusting your outdoor activities accordingly.
So it's about making those small, conscious choices that can collectively make a big difference.
Right. And remember, knowledge is power.
Yes.
The more we understand about the heart and how it interacts with the environment, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions that benefit our health and well-being.
I think we've covered an incredible amount of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
We've explored the heart's intricate chambers and valves, its remarkable electrical system, the chemical messengers that fine-tune its rhythm, the impact of fitness, and even the potential influence of environmental factors.
Absolutely. It's been quite a journey, and I hope it's inspired you to learn even more about this remarkable organ that beats tirelessly within each of us.
It has. I feel like I have a whole new appreciation for my heart and everything it does.
Remember, the heart is more than just a pump.
Right.
It's a symbol of life, resilience, and the interconnectedness of all things.
Okay, so as you go about your day, take a moment to appreciate the steady beat of your own heart.
Yeah.
It's a reminder of the incredible symphony of life unfolding within you.
And who knows what other wonders await us as we continue to explore the mysteries of the human heart.
Exactly. We've only just scratched the surface of this complex and awe-inspiring organ. So keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep listening to that steady beat.
Until next time, stay curious and keep those hearts healthy.
You know, it really makes you think that learning about the heart
Yeah.
is a lifelong journey.
It is. And you know, it's amazing to me that even with all of our scientific advancements,
Right.
the heart still holds so many mysteries.
We've been studying it for centuries.
Yeah,
Yet there's always something new to discover.
absolutely. For instance, scientists are still trying to fully understand the heart's regenerative capacity.
Okay.
Like, can we coax the heart into repairing itself after an injury? What are the limits of its resilience?
Those are some big questions.
They are.
It really makes you wonder if there are even more layers to this onion that we haven't even begun to peel back.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this field so exciting. There's always something new to explore.
Yeah?
Always another puzzle to solve.
It's not just about the science, though, is it?
Right.
There's a certain poetry to the heart. It's a symbol of life, love, courage.
You said it. It's been woven into our art,
Right.
literature, and music for millennia. Think about all the metaphors and symbolism that are associated with the heart.
Right.
It's a testament to its enduring power and mystery.
And I think we tend to forget that sometimes, just caught up in the hustle and bustle of life.
Yeah,
It's good to be reminded
it is.
of the wonder and beauty of this organ that keeps us going.
Well said. And, thinking about the heart's symbolic meaning brings up another fascinating area of research, the mind-heart connection.
Oh, interesting.
So scientists are exploring how our thoughts, emotions, and even our beliefs can impact our cardiovascular health.
So it's not just about the physical factors like diet and exercise, but also our mental and emotional well-being.
Exactly. There's a growing body of evidence suggesting that things like stress, anxiety, and even loneliness
Right.
can have detrimental effects on our heart health.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, we've all felt that tightness in our chest
we have.
when we're stressed or anxious.
Yeah.
It's almost like our emotions are literally manifesting
Right.
in our hearts.
It seems that way.
And then on the flip side,
Yeah.
positive emotions like joy, gratitude, and love seem to have a protective effect on our hearts.
They do.
So nurturing our emotional well-being is just as important as taking care of our physical health.
It's all interconnected.
Wow, we've come a long way on this deep dive.
We have.
From the basic anatomy of the heart to, exploring this cutting-edge research.
Right.
And even pondering the heart's philosophical and symbolic meaning.
It's been quite a journey. I hope you've gained a newfound appreciation for this incredible organ that beats tirelessly within each of us.
I know I have. It's amazing how much we've learned, yet how much more there still is to discover.
And that's the beauty of science and of life itself.
Yeah.
The journey of exploration never truly ends.
Well said. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of the human heart.
Yeah.
We encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep listening to that steady beat within you.
Until next time, stay curious and keep those hearts healthy.